June 6th, 2017. I just finished 7th grade, and was spending my summer vacation at my mother's and grandfather's house in Florida, until my birthday in late August. Now, one of the first things my mom and I did together was watch her favorite classic Disney movie, Bambi. In case you don't know about Bambi, it's an animated Walt Disney film released in 1942, during World War II. It was about a young deer named Bambi and his life growing up in the forest. It's considered by many to be a classic, although it's mostly remembered for the tears it brought to generations of many children due to a specific scene. The scene where Bambi's mom is killed by the unseen antagonist referred to as Man. It certainly made me cry as a kid, and still continues to make me cry nowadays. The next day, I was helping my grandfather clean his computer office, until I came across a strange sight. It was an old film canister with a 70mm reel. The canister was labeled with Japanese text, although I was able to see that it was released on March 12th, 1983, in a select AMC theater in Japan. "Grandpa, what is this?" I asked him. When he turned around, he noticed the canister, and after a few seconds of examining it, he turned his attention back to me. "Oh, this is the 1983 Japanese re-release of Bambi." Or that's what the theater thought it was. After only 3 hours of it playing, the employees realized someone switched out the submitted reel with whatever was playing. And according to some of the complaints, it was deemed too violent and too scary for children. Honestly, I don't know what's on it. But if you want, I know someone who can create a digital copy of the film and put it on DVD for you to watch. This was something that piqued my interest, but at the same time, I was skeptical. A violent and scary version of Bambi that made its way to an AMC theater in Japan, before being replaced with actual Bambi that we know and love today? Regardless, I agreed to his offer. And after about 8 days, my grandpa came home from work with a DVD and a jewel CD case. I thanked him, gave him a hug, and went to the living room. I put the DVD into the Blu-ray player, and to my surprise, it started with the AMC Coming Soon bumper from 1983, along with trailers for movies released in '83, like Return of the Jedi, War Games, Kroll, Sudden Impact. You get the idea. The feature presentation logo came on, along with the film itself. Actually, for the first 43 minutes, nothing was off. I mean, during the little April shower scene, it was glitching. During the scene where Bambi was skiing on ice, images would freeze frame for a while, and then fast forward to catch up with the sound. I shrugged it off. I mean, it was a 70mm film transferred to DVD. The film was from 1983. Of course, I thought it was normal. However, after Bambi's mom died, instead of fading to the gay little spring song scene, it faded to a very forlorn and depressed Bambi, walking through the wet, raining meadow. I quickly noted that this wasn't something that happened in the original film. Then I was confused. Bambi came to the pond from earlier where he met Faline, looked at his reflection, and started to cry. The most unsettling part was that Bambi didn't sound like he was voiced by Donnie Dunnigan anymore. Instead, the voice sounded similar to Danny Lloyd, the actor who played little Danny Torrance from The Shining. This was scaring me, but at the same time, making me a little bit upset. Bambi asked himself what the point was in living. My daddy wants what's best for me, but I just want to be a happy young deer. Nobody loves me. Not even Faylene. He began to cry again, then said tearfully, I must end it all. My real suffering must never be known. And then thought to myself, oh, please don't even do what I fear you're gonna do. A deep voice then uttered, do it. Bambi then forced his head into the pond. Several seconds passed and he still hadn't brought his head up from the water, and after about a minute his body was thrashing about. He then stopped thrashing and fell side first on the ground, his head still in the water. It then froze on that shot of Bambi's dead body before the screen flickered and snapped to black. Text then appeared, stating, 1 week later. The strange thing was, at least for me, was the deep voice and the voice at the text I recognized to be Mark Elliott, the usual narrator for trailers and commercials for Disney movies. A funeral was being held for Bambi. All the characters, like Friend Owl, Thumper, Flower, and Faylene, were all crying, all mourning the loss of their friend. The last few seconds of the scene showed a zoom in on his face, and the film ended up freezing on that shot as the credits rolled. The scariest thing that I noticed was the music was the same music from the ending credits of that 1958 Hammer horror film, Horror of Dracula. Even the credits font text was done in the same style, this red color as shown in the movie. After the credits were done rolling, red text faded, saying, a Walt Disney production in association with Hammer Film. The film then faded to black. It was over. I was bawling, and at that moment my mom came home from work. I told my mom and grandfather about the movie. What do? They contacted the authorities, and they took the 70mm reel for Bambi for an examination and investigation. My grandfather apologized to me for his inconvenience, and he took me to the AMC theater to watch Wonder Woman, which made me feel better. My grandfather got a notification from the police the next day. They figured out how it all happened. See, there was an intern, once, at Hammer Film, that had a crazy obsession with Bambi. He decided to make his own depressing ending, which was completed in 1981. He found a 70mm print of Bambi, spliced out the rest of the film following Bambi's mom's death, inserted his ending, and passed it off as a director's cut. He managed to sneak it into AMC and had it playing for 3 hours until it was removed and replaced with the real version that we all know. I have a single warning for all of those who are reading this. If you find a copy of this version of Bambi, don't watch it. Don't watch it in hopes of preventing anyone else from viewing it. I mean, I was traumatized after seeing this movie. I had to suffer nightmares of Bambi dying in the most heartbreaking of ways. As for now, I can only hope that it's never discovered again. If it is found, however, I can only hope that the individual has read this warning beforehand and will report it to the proper authorities out of fear and safety. if you do disobey my warning and you end up watching the film in its entirety, you'll end up going through what I did.